they say it's all about luck and timing, and it turned out after 3 months of being open, he came and said, you know what, you guys hustle, you guys work your ass off, the celebs you bring, the people you bring, I don't know how you do it, but I can't do it anymore. I own another place called Truesdale, do you want to just buy it from me?
Hey guys, Pat and Posh here.
This episode is brought to you by No Sponsors, a sponsor company that sponsors no one.
Today's episode is with the duo, John Terzian and Brian Toll. They're the founders of h.wood Group, who owns and operates
Venues such as
Bootsy Bellows,
Shore Bar,
The Nice Guy,
Blind Dragon,
Delilah,
The Peppermint Club,
Poppy,
Petite Tequeria,
and soon to come, Mason
and Slab.
Woo! Tune in.
Brian and John, I guess let's start off with a very simple question. How did you two meet?
We sort of knew each other in high school. I would say we went to different LA high schools, but had a lot of friends in common. We're going to the same, parties and things like that.
LA high school circuit is small. Yeah. So it's all kind of all like one. I went to Harvard Westlake, he went to Beverly.
Mm-hmm. So that's how
we had going to
friends.
and going from Little League and Hebrew school and all these different places. You sort of know people from all the different schools. Mm-hmm. So I remember in high school going to parties at people's houses from Harvard Westlake and Brentwood and all the schools, and so I remember seeing him and meeting him, and I don't know exactly how we met, but
yeah. So you guys kind of knew each other.
Well, we had a lot of mutual. It was more USC. That's where we got to know each other. And ironically, so I was in the entrepreneur school at USC, and in it were Dean Andres, which is how I got to know them so well. And he was and is best friends with them.
And Dee told us that you guys were roommates for 15 years or so.
Me and Dee, yeah.
I think they still are.
We're common law married at this point.
Got you.
Yeah, and that's a real way how I got to really know how we got hooked up. And after law school, I was working for a DJ who was the first celebrity DJ AM.
Yeah.
And opened LAX. And that's when I, kind of realized Brian knew what he was doing with promoting at a huge promotion company. I had done promoting in college on a smaller scale at this 28th Street there, and then got out and was doing DJ stuff. And Brian, though, had a huge company, and so that's where we started was LAX. We didn't own LAX, but we essentially ran it.
Yeah, he ran it and brought me on to handle the nights and the promoters and things like that.
Started working together.
Yeah.
So, John, you mentioned that you went to law school. Why did you decide to do that?
Well, two reasons. The simple answer is from a family of lawyers, and it was more or less expected. It was almost like, I don't care what you do with your life, you have to have a law degree. So that has just been embedded in me since day one. The unfortunate truth is that I could not be further from a lawyer's mind. I technically got into college on an art scholarship. So my mind is just so not lost. It was not a fun time for me. I got through it. The other reason why I did it was at one time I worked for a sports agent, and I worked for Kobe and Arntellum, who were the biggest agent. Loved it, but didn't love the agent world. I was a lot more creative, and so I got through law school. And I think what's nice is I essentially am a failed artist, and so what's nice is what I do now is I get to create.
Yeah.
All I care about is how the things look and feel. So that's how it came about.
To kind of go back to your college, undergrad days, I know you were on the football team, right? You were a quarterback, but decided to go in a different route. And
I decided not to do the NFL.
Yeah, that was just one of those things where it's I have bigger plans.
I said, you know what? I took the path less traveled.
Yeah, exactly. But so you were recruiting football players to the team. Is that right?
That's the stem of how I got into all this. Was they noticed that while I was literally never going to get in a game, and they barely let me near the practice field, I was very good with the recruits.
Yeah. And he helped the overall GPA of the football team, and they knew that.
I kept the GPA. I don't know how much that's supposed to be known, but I legitimately, my GPA kept them eligible, which is the irony.
I mean, that's their strategy. That's why somehow the overall GPA of the football team was higher than mine. So
right.
I mean, I don't know what that says about me.
I didn't have that great of a GPA. I had a 3.7 or something like that.
I mean, that's pretty great.
For them, they were like, this guy is like the end all be all. And so, but anyway, back to the football thing. It was incredible. Like looking back on everything, incredible. A lot of my relationships that actually help us today. There's a guy, Alex Holmes, who was like my best friend in high school, tight end. He was a tight end there.
Right.
Is that Khaled's brother?
Yes. Helps us so much through from when we started h.wood Group. He's been our to today. Yeah. He's our biggest supporter with networking and people and clients and himself. So that he's like one of many examples. I met at the time a young he wasn't even an agent then, but his name was Thad Fouché, who now is the head of Wasserman Sports Group.
Wow.
He represents 48% of the NBA. He's been a powerful force for us. That's how I've gotten to know Westbrook so well and all these guys. And relationships really matter. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah. And one thing that I think Brian also mentioned was these parties you guys used to go to in high school, college. And I know that you guys were throwing parties and entertaining. And then Brian, at one point, I know that you were taking these large groups to parties, which is how the promotion thing came about. But why don't you tell us a little bit about, that path and, what got you into that in the first place?
Yeah, it's not something I ever set out and said I'm going to throw parties for a living. Mm-hmm. But I would say in high school, I wasn't that close with that many people in my high school. I enjoyed hanging out with people in other schools. And so I remember every weekend we would drive around and go to parties or hang out with people and whatever. And so I always enjoyed that. And then I used to house sit for my grandparents when they would go out of town. And they had a dog, right? And so it started where I was supposed to learn responsibility and make sure the dog didn't die. And they were paying a dog sitter, and they said, you know what, this is good for you. Take on some responsibility, water the plants, keep the dog alive, all that sort of thing. And it turned into, a couple friends over, and then those friends would say, hey, you should have more friends over. And then it turned into anytime I would house sit for them and they were out of town all the time, it would be a little party. And then I think my 17th or 18th birthday, I threw a big one, 100 people. And that was the first time that I really threw a party. And I enjoyed the social aspect. I enjoyed the planning of it. I enjoyed doing it. And in college, sort of started a little bit at SC, doing a little bit at their house, but also I was just always social. I had friends from high school there. I had friends from college. And, I used to plan nights going out to clubs in Hollywood. And I started to meet promoters there Scott Fywell and Jared Holdridge, who were who are you? You show up and there's 20 people behind you. Let me give you some drink tickets. And
SC, if neither one of us went to SC, we wouldn't be in this business.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a powerful... It's why I do as much as I can for SC, because...
Right.
I wouldn't have no other school is like it, especially not in LA with what you have behind you.
And I wasn't in a frat, and so I needed something to do on the weekend. There were all these date parties, and I didn't have that, and so I could hang out with people on campus or hang out, at home with high school friends or whatever. But I liked going to those clubs in Hollywood. I'm 20 years old, meeting promoters saying, "Here's free drinks." So I'm walking in with a fake ID. This was the greatest thing ever, and I would bring groups with me, and then they were like, here, we'll just give you $100, or it just started like that, and it was fun. Right. And so I never looked at it this is going to be a career. I just enjoyed the clubs. I remember AM used to DJ, and that's how I used to hear what new songs were big. There wasn't Spotify and chart, none of this existed. Right. So I like the music aspect. It was a fun thing. It grew and grew and grew, and eventually became a business.
I think something that Pat and I always touch upon is the relationships. John, you brought it up, and it's not really USC. I think it's the people that are at USC and just the environment and the culture there, but also what you kind of do with it. A lot of our friends just went to class and they went home, and I always told them you're coming to USC. you can get this degree anywhere else. You know, you can go to UCLA, you know, for God's sakes, and get a degree there, but, you know, you're not going to get that same network. You're not going to get that same power of the alumni network. No, totally. And I think that that's something that is important for, you know, let's say our listeners that are listening, you know, the college kids, post-grad, is like really kind of hone in on those relationships, not only building them, but nurturing them over time.
Well, I arguably, unless there's a few professions like engineers and stuff, right. I think it is the end all be all for what you gain in college is the relationships and who you develop those with and how you nurture those. Mm-hmm. And I naturally did it, which is how I got into, you know, what I was doing. And you know, we always say, like, to this day we build all of our places around our core group of people that have been with us since day one. And it's funny because the same people we were throwing their high school parties for and their college birthdays we threw their engagements for, their wedding stuff. They're now big in whatever industry they are, and we're doing their industry things, like to the level where, you know, no one understands how. It's funny, you'll say, how do they get Golden Globes production, right? Well, no one realizes the actual, it stems from a relationship of 10 years of events from the people that now run these things. Mm-hmm. And that's what it's all about. You can liken that to every industry. That's how people do what they're doing in business and finance and real estate. And, you know, it comes down to that. And really comes down to just how you are with people.
Yeah. And for someone who is
entrepreneurial, go on.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, if someone is entrepreneurial and looking to go to college to get those connections. I mean, like, nowadays, what is tuition, like $55,000 a year? Like, if you had to go back, would you have done it again, knowing that?
I didn't do it. I didn't go to USC for the connections. Yeah. I don't think that's a smart way to go about it. Yeah. I think any college you can make the right connections. For me, for us, probably what we do, SC turned out to be the best place that you could be for what we do.
Yeah, it makes more. Yeah, for sure.
You know, but I think any college you're at comes down to the relationships you make. I don't think it's about. Yeah. I think it's a common misnomer. You don't need to, like, necessarily be around. SC gets a pretty bad rap for being like the rich school. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's basically what it is. It's not necessarily what I was surrounded with. A lot of these guys made themselves their own entrepreneur. A lot of them are just in regular jobs. All of them are extremely important friends and you know, guests of ours. Like, there's a wide variety of people. Yeah. But it comes down to the people that you make those relationships with at each school.
And I would say I went to SC. I loved living in LA. I'm close to my family. I never wanted to really go anywhere. I never even took trips to look at other schools with my parents. I wanted to be in LA or California. So I didn't get into Stanford. I got into Berkeley and I went and looked, and it just was not for me. Got into like UC San Diego. And so I wanted a football team. SC just seemed great. And again, the connections wasn't really a thing, but to his point, I think the only reason that we're doing what we're doing is because we stayed in LA. We were here for those 4 years, and so those relationships, not only from people we went to school with, but the people in the nightlife and restaurant industry that I met at that time and after that time, all of this really only happened because I stayed here. So I think part of me wished I'd gone to the East Coast and done 4 years out there, but we would never be doing what we're doing if we had gone to Michigan for 4 years.
What's that other factor? Like, obviously, if there's like two other guys in your same situation, right, going to USC and interested in hospitality, like, why do you think you guys made those connections, and why?
It's funny. I wasn't even interested in hospitality. I wanted to be an agent. When I graduated college, I worked at Endeavor, and in college, I was a music industry minor. I worked at record labels, so hospitality, like, I didn't even know what it was. Yeah. I just did the parties because I enjoyed it. And then when I graduated and was working at Endeavor, I hated that. I didn't like basically the hazing, and they treat you like shit, and that just wasn't for me. I don't mind corporate. I mind when they, like, treat every assistant like shit, basically, and you have to work there for 2 years just for anyone to respect you. And, like, I didn't love that. And so after 3 months, I decided on the side, I'm just going to do parties and make some money until I figure out what it is I want to do. And then I just kind of never stopped. But it was not something I set out, like, I'm going to stay in LA and I'm going to go to SC because I want to be in hospitality. I would have gone to UNLV or somewhere that had hotel management or something like that. Yeah.
So we'll get into the h.wood group and how, you know, that started and how, you know, it's become what it's become now. But I think that's something that, you know, it's not necessarily a sexy thing to talk about, but I think it's reality and, you know, people want to hear it. with any entrepreneurial kind of journey, there's always these failures. Whether they're small ones or big ones. I don't want to assume it. Were there any small or big failures for you guys?
Our first two venues were massive failures, which is the crazy part. When we tell people that, they're like, "No way, you guys have had failures." But
oh my God.
The first one was so basically, I was doing the promotions at LAX.
Okay.
John owned it with AM.
Okay.
And
I didn't own LAX, but
ran AM's ownership, I should say. And the time came when the two of them and another guy named Loyal and a group came together and said, we want to do another place. And John came to me and said, people, you know what you're doing. Why don't you put some money in, be a partner on this? Why don't you learn the ownership side instead of just promoting and doing events and concerts? And I said, yeah, I'll do that. So I made an investment I wanted to learn. We opened a place called The Stork, which was in business. It
was ahead of its time.
Is that the PR spin?
It was very ahead of its time.
It was very cool.
It was out of business.
So we could be expecting it in 2035?
We essentially did it with the Delilah's like a better version of what it was, but we were basically doing this restaurant, lively club, very well, cool, whatever, but in like deep Hollywood on Orange, attached to a mall.
And we were too young to bring the crowd that we now.
Yeah, we didn't have the right thing.
And this is what, you're 25 years old?
24, 25, something like that. Anyways, we were out of business in 3 months. Lost $2 million. Nightmare.
$2 million?
Yes.
In 3 months.
You guys had investors?
We didn't stop.
Wait, hold on, it gets worse.
Did it.
We were like, oh my God, how are we going to tell these people we've lost all their money?
Who were those people, though? Like, were they
friends, family, ourselves?
By the way, we were the biggest investors.
Okay.
So we lost the most.
And it was so embarrassing.
My dad still reminds me.
And the crazy thing is it was packed. We just didn't know how you actually turn customers into revenue.
Right.
And then
didn't understand operations. We knew how to comp people. We knew how to throw a really good party. And then anytime we were actually busy, we had noise complaints, neighbor complaints, so the cops would come and shut us down.
Right, arrest us.
So we were out of business, and we didn't know what to do. So I went to a friend of mine that said, can you please just give us a bridge loan right now to figure this out? So he gave us, Sammy, 100,000, 50,000?
Yeah.
Which kept us going for an extra month or two till we figured out a plan. And I actually was telling Dee the story, because I lived with Dee at the time, Dee Murthy from 5'4 Clothing, and said, I don't know what to do. I'm embarrassed to tell all these people. What would you recommend? He's like, you should speak to my investor. They have a lot of money. This isn't really their core business, but I bet they would give you a big loan or steer you in the right direction because you guys clearly know what you're doing. The place is packed. You need someone that understands business. And so we took a meeting.
He influenced you because he's an influencer.
Exactly. And I do go to Dee for advice and
great.
business
They saved
stuff.
us.
And so Dee set up a meeting, and we went and said, and it was his investors at 5'4 who came from the finance background. Mm-hmm. And we explained what a nightclub is, what bottle service is. So we had to teach them as if they literally had no idea what we were doing. Yeah. And they really, I guess, liked our concept and liked everything we had to say and understood that we weren't there just to party and drink and none of that stuff. We were there to make money and said, look, if you guys really want to do this, we're going to have to dilute your current investors down to basically nothing, but we'll give you, it was close to $1 million, and you can redo the place and figure it out.
Okay.
And the bad news was AM had backed out. Amanda Demi, who was supposed to be our partner, had backed out. It was just a disaster after a disaster. The city hated us for the noise, but we took the money and we redid it, and
third time we
called it h.wood. So that's where the name of our group comes from. And we had a really cool little bar next door called the Tea Room.
Tea Room was an old storage space. We learned that our friends had become such big celebrities. They wanted a small space because h.wood was big, 2 stories, everywhere. So we turned a room this size, slightly bigger that we're in, which fits maybe 100 people.
And we're in 120 square foot room, 150 square foot room?
A little bigger than that, but about 100 person room.
Less than that, it was 50 people.
Yeah.
It was honestly maybe double this size.
Okay. Yeah.
And that, I credit our whole separation factor to that, making that move, Tea Room, which is, we catered to, we learned really how to cater to the top of the top people, and which is what separated us, and So that's the good news of that. The bad news is we
went out of business there again.
We didn't even go out of business. We got shut down by the city.
We had so many people there.
Was it building in safety or what?
No,
well, no,
ABC.
It was the city. It was the cops, and they were sick of the noise complaints. We were packed. We knew how to bring people. We've always been good at that. And these people would get drunk and go take a piss on the lawn next door and throw up everywhere. And so they cut our valet. They made us shut down at midnight. We couldn't pay rent. We ended up losing about $3 million.
I moved home with my parents. We
How was that like?
had to become. It was the worst time of our lives.
And yeah, this is like
the most scarring.
And this is not we weren't kids anymore. This was
By the way,
27 years old, 28 years old. This is 2009?
It's so
2009.
It's so scarring that we still make decisions based on stuff that we went through with them, which is probably good. Like I mean, we're so scarred.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's the whole goal, right? Is to fail, but fail quickly and learn from it.
I know everyone says that, and it's true. It's great to talk about it in hindsight. It's horrible living it, and I don't know how many people live through it. But from what I'm learning and what I know, a lot of the best entrepreneurs go through some crazy rough stuff.
But it is a time when a lot of people give up and say, "Forget it. I'm just going to take a job. I don't want to deal with this headache."
Right. So how did you guys come out of that? It's probably the worst time of your life, like you just said, John. But how do you kind of muster up that positivity?
What keeps you going at that point?
We
It's like
never
two
stopped.
venues.
I guess for me, I didn't really have that much to fall back on, right? I could have gone back into promoting, which I was doing really well doing it, but I had given up my company for this.
I didn't either, really, though. I didn't pass the bar.
Yeah, we didn't, and
we had nothing. There was no shot of giving up. Didn't even cross our mind.
And there wasn't like at this age after being out of college. 6 years, 7 years, there wasn't like a job I could go do. So it's either you go back to what I was doing or go to law school or business school or something. So we decided.
Well, we really did. We technically went back to what we were good at. He was friends with the guy that owned a club that we were like, look, for the time being, to keep relevant, get money, we promoted. We didn't like to say that, but we did.
Right. And we found someone to invest. It was called the Beverly. Yeah. And I had been good friends with the guy that he owns Jerry's Deli, Guy Starkman, and Guy said, "Known you forever. Don't do anything. Come be a part of this. Learn the business. Let me show you how to really operate. I own 12 Jerry's Delis. I know how to make money. You need a mentor." And so we did that, and we were essentially paid as promoters. We had a little bit of ownership because we had someone that put in money, just because we did not want to go back to just promoting. We felt even having a point or two and saying we own part of it was beneficial. And we learned a ton. And they say it's all about luck and timing. And it turned out after 3 months of being open, he came and said, "You know what? You guys hustle. You guys work your ass off. The celebs you bring, the people you bring. I don't know how you do it, but I can't do it anymore. I own another place called Truesdale. Do you want to just buy it from me?" And that's downstairs. And that became Bootsy Bellows. And so if we hadn't taken that job with him and been a part of the Beverly, I don't think he would have offered us the place downstairs. And Bootsy is really what set us on the path we're now on.
Well, at the same time, when we were promoting, we found a small bar in Santa Monica next to Giorgio where we grew up going, and the guy Mark Verge really believed that we, out of everyone, and at the time we really didn't have a name or anything. He just liked our conviction and our story, and he had this bar that had been there forever. He wasn't an operator type guy. I mean, he could be, but he just, a big investor, finance type guy. And he gave us a shot at taking this bar, and we had this concept called Shore Bar that related, since we were all kind of from the area. No one the West Side was untapped. Right. And so we had this concept of having like our friends be quote unquote members, where they had like in a house account, like a country club. Right. And that's to this day what it is. And so
members only.
We got Shore Bar. We built it on a shoestring budget. We had literally to the T $100,000 to convert what was there to what is now Shore Bar,
which is almost impossible.
Oh, yeah, so hard. And
the liquor, they have a liquor license hopefully already?
Yeah, we had that. But it's also why we're really loyal. The guy that did it for us there is John Sofio. He really basically did it for free. But it was essentially why we're, from that, we've done all of our places with him. Because all these guys took shots on us. And so at the same time, when we got Truesdale, we had to raise money to turned that into Bootsy Bellows. I was friends with, we had a bunch of mutual friends with David Arquette. Mm-hmm. He had just come off of a bad experience with the nightclub world, and he had an incredible concept about basically reinventing what nightclubs were, which was bringing entertainment. Mm-hmm. That's where the puppets and vaudeville whole thing came from. And so pretty much at the same time, we opened both Bootsy's and Shore Bar, and our whole thing was we got out of Hollywood, we moved everything west, where our core friends and family are, and I think we really thrive in this area. It's really where we grew up.
That's insane. I mean, you guys. So like again, going back to like you guys had 2 venues, flopped. You moved back home, and
we actually had 3. He left out Las Palmas.
Oh, okay. So that was 3 at the same time. Everything just gone.
Just gone.
Gone.
Moved back home, and now you guys like back at it, full force, 2 venues at a time. Like, I'm just trying to understand like how that even happened. Like,
well, what's nice is we had to learn. We had to learn to do everything ourselves. So like we had to learn how to operate. We had to learn how to do build the place and design the place. There's a bunch of stuff that we just didn't know before. Mm-hmm. We didn't have the confidence. We didn't know. And I think you need to have those experiences.
So I want to kind of ask you this as well. You had family, friends as investors originally.
Yeah. By the way, we had like 30 investors.
Right, and they didn't get their money back the first time around. Did you go back to them?
No, they were not.
No. To this day, and a couple of them are currently heavily like our hotel deal and stuff.
But no, we did not go back to them for more money. We were. The hardest part of the whole thing was having to go speak to them and say, "I'm so sorry, we lost your money."
And how was that feeling? Like, I know it sucks, but like, how do you even have that conversation?
It's
the worst thing in the world,
and it doesn't get easier no matter how many times you have these conversations.
I'll tell you one thing though that we did naturally, and that everything we did was beyond above board. Meaning, every accounting, we didn't take a salary for 3. I mean, literally, we could barely eat and live ourselves. Right. So it was, in one regard, we were the biggest loss for the investors, like meaning like from us. Mm-hmm. All these guys were in the 25 to the highest was $100,000 investor. The rest were like 25 and 50 grand investors, and every dollar is a lot. But we were in the hundreds of thousands. Mm-hmm. That all was lost. I think where a lot of people go wrong in business is they don't put themselves in the shoes of investors, meaning like they take their salaries, they pay themselves back, they do all this stuff. We really didn't. And so I think why we maintained our relationships is we have good friends and family that believed in us and knew they got in too early on us. We treat them like kings when they come to any of our stuff. And I think the most important thing was that we were beyond above board about everything. At the end of the day, it's a risky game.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about your approach to like launching and like envisioning a venue. Like initially, I don't know if it's changed now. I'm sure
it hasn't.
It hasn't changed. So, tell us about that.
Well, it's changed as we've developed. Now it's like it's not so by the seat of your pants. Like meaning like okay, the concept comes up by everyone talking about the fun stuff, and then you break down how like I obviously get carried away artistically. They make it quick to point out how a seat needs to, the amount of seats we need to have in there and the way the bars are arranged and so that it operates on a, cost-effective way. I would say for me, the way concepts probably come about is we really see what I think we cater to who our friends are, who's going to like it, and we kind of build the thing around it. At this stage, we have so many places, it has to be complementary. Like, for example, we wouldn't go open another version of a nightclub, down the street. We've got Bootsy Bellows and Poppy strategically for a reason. 2 clubs.
I think we look at what the market is missing.
Right.
And so Nice Guy was our first restaurant. We said, clubs are cool. Restaurants are cool, but as we get older, our friends wanted something after dinner that wasn't necessarily a club, and there weren't too many places in LA where you could just go grab a drink, or you could have a 9:30 dinner and stay all night. And we said we need a concept like that. Right. So that's where the Nice Guy came about. And so we're always looking for what's missing. Blind Dragon, we had a lot of friends that do these crazy karaoke parties in their houses.
Yeah.
Right.
And we said, we need a place where, like, it's not in Koreatown. They can go do karaoke and have a private room and do a birthday in there. And again, they can go out and not have to be at a club. If they want to go to a club, they'll go to Bootsy. And so we sort of see what the market is missing.
You know, one thing that Pat and I love to focus on is the why, like the purpose, the mission behind the company. I think you touched upon it a little bit. And, you know, because the what is, you know, your venues. You know, that's what you guys do.
Yeah.
The how is you throw parties.
Right.
You guys have dope people. But what's the why? I mean, you know, why do you start this? Why do you continue to do this? What keeps you guys going day in and day out?
Probably different reasons for both, but I mean, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I think I started it because I just loved the music and I loved clubs and I loved the social aspect of inviting people to a certain place and having everyone together. And that was sort of the reason I started the promoting and going into it. And then once I really knew how to do that, I wanted to see how to actually run a place. And so sort of fell into it. But I had no point said, I want to own a hospitality company. It just sort of happened. My brain is very organized and detail-oriented, and so I love the running of the business and the critical path to getting it open and the everyday sort of business side of it as much as now, or even more than I like actually being there at night. It gets exhausting. So I like the running of the company and kind of the organization of running an event, if that makes sense, because you have to have it like really critical path and things in a steps, and so because every little detail is important.
And the reason why it's so good is because the behind the scenes is
it takes
perfect
months and weeks and crazy amount of time to do a party the last 2 hours, and then it's over. And the people that show up have no idea what went into it. We're planning our event at Cannes Film Festival now, which is in May. And just we're already dealing. It's been hours and hours of work. With
is it going to be in France?
We go every year, but like just to find a venue out there and find a sponsor and who's going to perform and how are we going to get people there and how is this going to be different from every other party? And so we started this months ago, and the party's not even until May. And so the things that we do to go into an event, and it's the same thing to open a venue. We've been working on a project in Chicago at a hotel for 2 years now, just figuring out all those little details. Those are the things that I really like about the job. I don't know exactly. It might be.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. I mean, personally, I love the creating side. I think we're creating. You know, I think every day we're coming up with, you know, game-changing type of experiences for guests. So that's really what I feel, and I think that it's fun for me to see us take four walls and turn it into something. You know, we're not the type that we don't ever care about a place is jinxed, or we don't care about any of that, because we know that if we believe in it, we can do it. It sounds kind of cliche, but it's true. And that's the nice thing about being an entrepreneur is you're going to win and lose, but if you have that mindset, in the long run, you're going to win. That's really what we're doing.
I was trying to search this online, but exactly how many venues you guys have, because I feel like you guys are opening up to so many different, new ones, coming up soon. So, what's the total right now at?
About 15 right now.
15. So
with about 6 or 7 more by, I'd say, the end of the year.
Yeah.
So what is your day-to-day like for both of you guys?
Chaotic.
I can imagine.
It's all over the place.
It's very different with different roles. I'm in like design meetings every hour basically, and stuff for the creative stuff. He's in a million operations meetings, and
I'm working I spent 2 hours last night going over a new agreement to do a nice guy in Aspen, for example. So I'm the one that kind of deals with the deal side and the lawyers, and then John will take over and actually design it and build the place and all of that.
So that's during the day, and then at night you guys party.
I wouldn't say we party. We barely drink. No. We were in Chicago yesterday.
You have a short career in this. If you're partying.
We're definitely out and we're hosting.
Yeah.
I
read somewhere that you're going back and forth from venues.
Yeah, you have to. We go start at dinner at 1 and check on the food in the kitchen on another, and then we're at the lounges and the bars. And I think it makes a big difference to have the boss check in on it. And I think everyone's on their toes, and
It's the end all. It's the end all be all. I'm telling you, if you're not physically there with our type of business, we're not running McDonald's.
Right.
And the other problem is, with a Cheesecake Factory or a McDonald's, people just go and it's different people every day. With our venues, we have the same people and crowd in there night after night and week after week, and they come because there are places and they want to support us and they want to say hi to us. And so if we're not there doing that, then I think we're losing.
A lot of these people came up with us, and so they feel that they're like part of it, which is good. I want them that. The double-edged sword is we hear right away when there's issues. There's issue with food, issue with service, issue with whatever, and so
it's really funny. We'll get a text randomly like, "Hey, I think the music's broken at Delilah right now." From someone eating. Like, when does that happen?
But it means they love it, and it's what we built on. So you'll never hear me complain about it because
it's kind of good to have eyes and ears everywhere for you guys.
The minute
I don't text D every time a button falls off my shirt, but
maybe you should.
Yeah, I should.
Yeah, the minute it stops is probably a problem, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. You guys both touched upon the people that you guys have always been surrounded with, and I mean, a simple search of h.wood or any of you guys would. I know you guys don't like to talk about it, so I'll talk about it. That you guys are surrounded by these celebrities and names that people recognize.
Yeah.
Some names that people recognize, but those some are big names.
Sure.
First of all, how did you guys get into those relationships, and how do they keep coming back and bringing more and more people with them and continue to support? Not only you guys, but just the brands that you guys continue to build.
I think we're just good to them. And a lot of clubs or restaurants, when they know a certain celeb is coming, they call the paparazzi and make sure that they're seen coming in the front door. And then when they're leaving, they call the tabloids and so-and-so is eating here. We don't do any of that. We walk them in the back door. No one knows they're in there. They get their food. It's not like we're like comping this and comping that. People don't mind paying if you give them a great experience, and we usher them out the back door. At the Nice Guy, we have a tunnel that we've connected to the back door, so it's like an accordion. We can basically pull it from the back door to the car, so a celebrity can literally run out the back and not have their photos taken, and so we protect them. And then we do so many events and things like that we can cultivate relationships and invite them. And luckily we have places that people want to go. I think I never feel like we have to beg someone to go anywhere. We have places where they want to go, events they want to go. So as much as they're doing us a favor by eating at our places, I feel like we're doing them a favor by saying, oh, you got to come to this event or that event. And so it works both ways.
I also think for us, it's not about the celebrities. It just happens to be the one that people are interested in. But it really is about the fact that it's real friendships.
Right.
It's not. These aren't like just people that There's no like the ones that you're referring to. We take care of their family and their friends, and no one realizes, but 9 out of 10 times we're doing stuff for them at their house or out of town or whatever it might be, whether it's an event or whether it's taking care of them. So that reflects in why there's a consistency of doing things with us, and there's a trust level. And
they just happen to be celebrities. It's not like you are friends with them because they are.
Exactly.
They just kind of came up and somehow they.
Some of them got. I mean, I don't mind saying I credit a lot of our company's success with Katy Perry, who grew big as we were opening, and she's been.
She came to the tea room when we were opening. She was like sleeping on her friend's couch at the time.
She wasn't. Nobody knew her at the time.
Right.
No one knew. Yeah, she wasn't as big, and Marcus, who started h.wood with us, is best friends with her, and she became literally our biggest supporter, and I'll never. I always will credit that and I'm appreciative of that, because as she got bigger, and obviously she's one of the biggest in the world now, you know what? When she's in town at Staples, she comes straight to one of our places after, just because it's like a family thing.
Right.
And to me, that's what matters. And I can name you 20 other people that do that aren't celebrities, and that's why they're treated like that, and that's really what it's about, and how we have that repeat. And keep them really safe. I don't know if you know, but there's no pictures allowed in Nice Guy and Delilah, and that's the reason. Want to have them have a safe haven.
I was going to ask, how do you prevent that, the fact that people finding out that they're in there in this day and age with, live videos and Instagram and all these things?
No cameras allowed.
No cameras. Yeah. We can't stop it in the clubs. I'd love to. It's impossible.
Too crowded.
But at that point, you have a bouncers can just like.
And,
But nice
and
guy
the
in
clubs or in the
Delilah-
restaurants?
Clubs. Or maybe,
It would be too hard. There's just so many people in there,
Yeah.
and it's so many lights and things. Security wouldn't notice if someone's doing
Nice
it.
guy in Delilah, it's really great because
As soon as there's a flash, you'll staff is running, no pictures. I mean, it's easy to tell.
Brian, someone took a photo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, guys, just to kind of learn more about your personal lives, not too much, but we obviously know about the work that you guys have done, and it's super successful. And we really hope that we see more of these venues. But how do you maintain a healthy work-life balance?
I think they sort of are intertwined,
Yeah.
and so when we have dinner with friends, we do them at our venues. When
Yeah.
I go to dinner with my parents, I make sure it's in one of our venues. I'm trying. It seems like everything we do, we try and incorporate work life around. When it's anyone's close friends' birthdays,
Pretty
we take
much.
care of it in our venues, and so that part sort of goes hand in hand. The hardest part is when he's married and I'm engaged. When our fiancés or wives are saying, "Just stay home tonight. Why can't you be home on a Saturday night?" That's the hard part.
That's like the main night.
or like for our 1 year anniversary, she's like, "Where are we going?" I'm like, "Nice guy."
But we've been partners since like 2006. So for us, it's normal. Friday, Saturday night, like we're in the venues, period.
Right.
So, and they've met us both once we were very far into this. So they, as much as annoying as it is, they're very understanding, and that we can't not be there on a.
It'd be
on a big
It'd be
weekend.
tough for someone that was relationship wise that wasn't supportive or got it.
And I know that a few years back, that the Hakkasan group came in and started working with you guys.
Yep.
Could you guys tell us a little bit about? How
Yeah,
that
well,
went
it
down?
was a weird time. It was about 3 years ago, and we had Bootsy was extremely successful. Shore Bar, same thing. We made all the whole investment back in 6 months or something.
Well,
We had Hooray Henry's, and we wanted to do a restaurant, and we were going to people to raise money, and we got the same answer from everyone, which is, well, you guys have a group. Like, we want to be part of the whole picture,
Right.
not just a one-off where clearly it might fail. So it was actually hard to raise money, even though we were successful and had notoriety. And so we decided, the best way to do this is to become really a group and meet with private equity guys and investment bankers and raise the money on a corporate level and kind of buy out some of our little investors that only had a part of one or two little places. And met with a bunch, and it seemed that we met with Hakkasan, and that they really got it and understood what we wanted, and they wanted places where they could send all their biggest clients from Vegas when they were in LA, and vice versa, when they wanted to meet new people in LA who, when they went to Vegas, went to their places. And they also didn't have really a celebrity kind of face to bring the celebrities and cool LA people, and we sort of had that. And so
and again, it's
made
built on
sense.
relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in 2014, we sold about half the company to them and bought out all our current guys at the time. And so they've helped us grow. They provided infrastructure. We get some big clients from them in Vegas.
We've had a great relationship.
Here,
with them.
it's worked for both of us, I think.
Are you guys involved with any other charities or nonprofits? Is that something that you guys?
John does a lot of charity work.
Yeah, I'm extremely active. Been on the board of Imagine LA for a long time, which helps homeless families in LA, specifically single mothers. And I've been on the entertainment board of Children's Hospital, which is a really close, really important one to me. And I have h.wood really active on it, so kind of I personally am, and then our company is. We do quite a bit.
And we do a ton of charity events. We've hosted so many in the venues, but 25, 50 different events for different charities.
What advice would you give to someone in today's world, knowing what you know now about the club scene or the Hollywood scene in LA, that wants to get into
Advice for the club world or for nightlife world?
Yes.
If they want to get into restaurants, you mean?
Yeah.
I think hospitality more so in general.
I would say I have two things of advice. Number one, stick with it. Yeah. And if we had folded after the first or second or third miss, we wouldn't be here today. Yeah. And so it takes persistence. It takes hard work. And you have to have a little luck in there. If our friend Guy didn't happen to be building the Beverly right when everything was going bad, I don't think we'd be here. Yeah. and we fell into Bootsy. And I think the other thing is, even though the conversations are hard to have sometimes, you have to have them. And we've had so many times, whether it's telling an investor you lost their money or telling an employee you have to let them go or whatever the case is, it's better to just do it and rip off the Band-Aid. And we laugh like, that's going to be a hard conversation. Like it seems like every day there's something that comes up where you don't want to have it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people run and don't ever have that conversation. And we found that it's just better to have it and do it.
Yeah, I would say for me, two big pieces would be one. First and foremost would be you gotta love it, not for any other reason than the business itself, because it is not glamorous. And I think there's a lot of misconstrued thoughts that the restaurant nightlife world is some. You wake up at 3 and you're partying and hanging out and doing whatever, and it could not be further from the truth.
There are plenty of people that do that. They're not very successful.
They're not successful, and so you got to really love it. Like we probably have different loves of aspects of it. I actually love the creation of it. I love people. Like I love our interactions with it. I live, breathe, sleep it. And if you don't have that, you're probably gonna have a hard time in hospitality. So that's one. Second thing is I would say you really never know what you should basically meet and vet all opportunities, because you don't know where one leads, especially in this business. So it might not be for whatever it is, but you might get 10 other things out of it, which is a really important thing that I think people and kids especially forget, and they get in this mindset. I've met with a lot of these kids right out of college, and they have their whole life planned. It's really strange. Like they just think they're on this one-track mind, and it's weird because you really don't know who you're going to meet and take you where,
There's a question that I really like asking. It's kind of weird, but the reason I ask is because as entrepreneurs and creators, we're always kind of thinking on the spot. There's something that comes up and we have to put out a fire, or we have to come up with a creative idea. If I had to ask you guys right now to create your own flavor of frozen yogurt, what would it be?
Create our own?
Create your own.
You want to go with that?
That's a hard question. It's funny, I'm not very creative when it comes to that sort of thing either.
I would probably, my mind would be, ironically, would be something towards a shock value. So I would do some sort of gold leaf edible frozen yogurt, so be something that people talk about. I haven't seen anyone do that.
I like that.
I do.
Goldschlager has those little gold things.
Yeah.
So to me, that would be something that I would think would be cool.
And now Brian's thinking, okay, how much is it going to cost?
Exactly.
How's the packaging going to look like?
His mind always goes to most
expensive. Is it going to be FDA approved?
Is it scalable? Yeah.
That's exactly right.
That's funny.
So you said you guys are launching another 6 or 7 venues coming up soon. How do you see this whole kind of h.wood group?
Well, it's funny. Yeah, our day-to-day is now not even spent trying to fill the current ones.
Yeah.
We have so many projects coming that it's kind of dealing with.
But so those are kind of are they in a way running themselves? Like you have a team that's or is it still you?
It is still us a lot. We have a really great team, but at the end of the day, it's still us. Yeah. And the new places is really us, because the developers want to meet with us, the realtors want to meet with us, all those people want to meet with us.
And at what point do you think you can kind of hands off and start?
That's a good question. I think both of us, for the next big step we want to take is hotels. Mm-hmm. I think we've accomplished a lot in nightlife and now restaurants, and now we're expanding to other markets. We feel like we've really done all we can do in LA. Right. So the next step, we're doing Chicago, we're doing something in San Francisco, we just opened in Cabo. We're doing a Bootsy in Dallas right now. We just opened in a Blind Dragon in Scottsdale. So we're trying to take over some other cities so we have less pressure to be there and can maybe take a step back on that. I think the brands work. But we would love to open a hotel where we create the whole experience, from the brand to the lobby to what the rooms are to what the F&B experiences are. And to me, that seems like the next logical step in what we do.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you guys for, sitting here with us and conversing and sharing your story. I think it's something that's going to be, super exciting and inspiring to not only folks that want to get into hospitality, but just, hear the stories of, success and failure, and kind of, just having to do it and keep on, just keep on going on. So thank you guys.
Yeah, I think you guys are, an amazing inspiration here in LA, and I can't, wait to see how you guys shape the future of LA and hopefully beyond.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks,
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys.